Chapter 79. Let's end this. With Adrian treating Grace like this, even if they got married, Grace would only become another Monica. What Grace wanted might remain forever out of reach, unless Grace took the initiative to tell Adrian that she was the one who saved him all those years ago. "Miss Ava!" A surprised, bright voice rang out above her head. Ava instinctively looked up. Stella stood in front of her with a delighted expression. "Why are you sitting out here instead of going in?" Stella glanced at the bag beside Ava. "My second brother said you went to buy food and then disappeared." Stella sat down next to Ava and linked their arms. "You do know how many times my second brother looked toward the door while we were here?" "I was just taking my sister's call." "Has he eaten?" Ava's lips curved into a smile. Stella clicked her tongue and shook her head. "Mom had our oldest brother go buy him food, but he said you'd already gone to get some and told us to go eat on our own." Stella winked suggestively. "This is my second brother's first relationship. He's terrified we'll ruin it." Just now in the ward, her second brother had announced they'd started dating. That smug look of his was really unbearable. "Let's go in." Stella shook Ava's hand. Though she couldn't stand her second brother's smugness, she really liked Ava and naturally hoped he'd marry her soon. Today, her parents and oldest brother were all here. Might as well treat it as meeting the parents. Without giving her a choice, Stella pulled Ava into the ward. Wesley, who'd been talking to Mrs. Hale, immediately stopped when he saw Ava, his eyes glued to her. Ava politely greeted Mr. and Mrs. Hale as well as Maxwell. Mrs. Hale had always had a good impression of Ava. She'd even seen Ava's performances. Especially after learning her son's feelings, she was extremely satisfied with Ava. She knew Ava had come here to volunteer. There were very few girls Ava's age who remained so devoted to charity work. Mrs. Hale had been dedicated to charity work herself for years, which made her like Ava even more. She stood up and pulled Ava over, asking if she'd been hurt. She'd invited Monica out a few times before, but had only met Ava twice at parties. After all, since they weren't officially dating, she could only befriend Monica. Going to Ava directly might put pressure on the girl. Ava had always been skilled at dealing with people. In no time, she'd become close with the Hale couple. Maxwell had already arranged for the discharge. Around 9 p.m. that evening, they boarded a helicopter back to New Harbor. After returning to the Hale residence, the attending physician did another examination. Though the injury was somewhat serious, it wasn't life-threatening. He just needed to rest and recover properly. By the time everything was done, it was past 1 a.m. Because she was at the Hale house, Ava had no intention of staying the night. They'd only just started dating. Their relationship hadn't deepened to that point yet. Staying overnight at the Hale house would be somewhat inappropriate. Ava declined Mrs. Hale's offer to arrange a driver to take her home. She'd already called Mr. Quinn to pick her up. "Miss, you weren't hurt, were you?" Mr. Quinn stood by the car, holding open the back door, looking at Ava with great concern. This year must be unlucky. In less than half a year, Ava had been in 2 incidents. "Mr. Quinn, I'm fine. Don't worry. Miss hasn't eaten yet, right? Mrs. Quinn already made food waiting for you." Ava's eyes curved as she smiled and got in the car. "Then let's hurry home. It's so late. We can't keep Mrs. Quinn waiting." Mr. Quinn responded with an affirmative. Ava leaned back in the seat, wondering how Clearwater Village was doing now. When they'd left, the county hospital was already overflowing. The hospital staff were running themselves ragged. "Miss, it's getting colder and colder. Don't go to such remote places anymore. What if something happens?" Mr. Quinn sighed. He didn't know if the master and mistress knew about this. When he'd seen the news, he'd only thought to check online for updates. Ava's phone wasn't working. He'd guessed the phone must have broken. Plus, the mistress didn't like them interfering with the second Mrs. Affairs, so naturally he didn't dare ask her about it. "Don't worry, Mr. Quinn, just this once. I definitely won't go again." After this lesson, she wouldn't dare next time. She didn't know if Lily had found her mother. She'd left in such a hurry, and with the chaos in Clearwater Village, she hadn't had time to check on the situation there. Ava suddenly asked about Grace's situation. Though Mr. Quinn was puzzled, he answered anyway. There was a reception tonight. Grace had attended as Adrian's date. When he'd left, Grace hadn't returned home yet. The car drove through the Hart family villa gates. Another car was parked outside. Through the window, Ava saw Grace in an evening gown getting out of the car, and in the final glimpse, feet in custom-made leather shoes. Mrs. Quinn, as always whenever she came home, was waiting at the door. Seeing the car stop, she immediately came forward. She held a shawl in her hands. "Were you scared?" Mrs. Quinn draped the shawl over Ava's shoulders, gently putting an arm around her. Seeing the worry all over Mrs. Quinn's face, Ava affectionately linked arms with her and acted cute. "My courage isn't that small. It takes more than that to scare me. I'm so hungry. Let's go eat quickly." At the villa entrance, Grace lifted her skirt, carrying her bag as she walked in. She watched the harmonious scene of the three under the light at the main building entrance. Recently, Mom had been feeling guilty about Ava's injury abroad, but Ava was completely unreceptive. She couldn't help feeling it wasn't fair to Mom, even if Ava was closer to Mr. and Mrs. Quinn. Monica was still Ava's biological mother. "Adrian, aren't you leaving?" Grace looked at Adrian, who'd followed her through the door. Under normal circumstances, she definitely wouldn't say something like this, but today's phone call had made her instinctively resistant to Adrian and Ava being under the same roof. "I'll leave once I see you inside." Grace breathed a sigh of relief. Ava walked to the bed and fell backward. Finally, she could get some proper sleep. A large hand covered her mouth. "Do you want to bring everyone here?" A low voice sounded in Ava's ear. When she'd fallen onto the bed, she'd discovered someone was already there. She hadn't turned on the light and had been scared nearly to cardiac arrest. "Let go." Ava's voice carried displeasure. She struggled a few times, but Adrian's arm around her was too tight. Her entire body was in his embrace, in an extremely intimate position. Even without moving, she could feel his body's changes. "Why are you back so late?" Adrian lowered his head, his thin lips pressed lightly against Ava's earlobe, his lower lip gently touching the cool earlobe. "Adrian, let's end this.